What's up, Conference USA fans? Welcome back to another episode of CUSA Insider, the official podcast of Conference USA. I'm your host, Sarah Rudolph, and we have a jam-packed show in store for you today. First things first, we're not going to make you wait for it. We're going to start out the show with our conversation with the commissioner. Judy MacLeod joins us once again here on the show, and we'll get to that in just a second. But following that, Josh and I are going to be back recapping everything that happened in Week 11, showing you our top plays around the league from last week as well. And then we have two more interviews for a game upcoming this weekend, which is super exciting. We're going to talk to Kennesaw State's Amari Odom and Jacksonville State's Cam Cook. So stick around for both of those. And then if you're still with us, which we hope you are, Josh and I are going to preview all of our Week 12 games and do a little here and there of what's happening around the league. So without further ado, here is our conversation with the commissioner, Judy MacLeod. What's up, CUSA fans? Welcome back to another edition of CUSA Insider, the official podcast of Conference USA. We are so excited once again to bring you another installment of our conversation with the commissioner, featuring Commissioner Judy MacLeod. Judy, thank you so much for joining us once again here on CUSA Insider.
Absolutely. Glad to be here and talk everything CUSA.
Everything CUSA, and there's a lot going on right now. But first, I think I'm going to start on the football side because we just finished out a really great weekday CUSA campaign. Once again this year, really stood out in the TV ratings this year, I think was something that we all in this office were taking a look at. Outperforming 7 group of 5 matchups that we had on the same networks in the same week. What have been your takeaway about the exposure that Conference USA is gaining from these weekday games in October?
Yeah, it's been incredible. Really, what we set out to do has happened. I was at a game one week and one of the announcers said, your game is rating higher than games on Saturdays. And the exposure has been tremendous, especially for our schools, our new schools coming in, to get the country to see what Conference USA football is all about. And we've had some great, exciting games. So couldn't be happier with it. I've been so impressed with how the coaches have embraced it and the schools. And so we're thrilled that it continues to show what we're all about.
Well, like you said, it does help when the games are super exciting and the outcomes are ones that you have to tune into every week because you never know who's going to win. I'm going to read this off so I don't get it wrong, but we've had some incredibly close games this season, including 9 one-possession contests and 7 decided by 3 points or less just during weekday CUSA, not counting what happened over this past weekend. So what does that say for you about the parity across this whole league and the excitement of this whole campaign?
Yeah, and don't change the channel because before the game's over, because you
literally have no clue.
Really excited to see. I think the bottom of our league has improved drastically. We don't have the one dominant team probably, and sometimes conferences get more exposure and more credit because they've got this one team. All of our teams are good, and the coaches will tell you seriously. I know it's a little coach speak. But they will tell you that on any given day, you better bring your A game because the other team will.
And you do look at the top of this league. Jacksonville State and Kennesaw State both sitting with no conference losses. Huge game upcoming this weekend. The two of those who were ASUN rivals of the past, now they're renewing their rivalry here in Conference USA, picked up by ESPNU. What are you thinking about this game? It's shaping up to be really a showdown for the Conference USA Championship at the end of the season.
It really is, but I got to say, both those teams have 3 tough games left. And so there's a lot of football left to be played until we figure out who goes to the Conference Championship. But obviously these two with no losses, have the right pathway and whoever comes out in that game. Games are just so competitive that anyone can beat anyone, and but that will tell a lot for our race. We've got Western Kentucky sitting there with 1 loss, and they're always dangerous. So I'm excited to see what happens on Saturday.
Yeah, very exciting. I do want to tell the fans, because this is a fun stat. David Hale at ESPN says that Conference USA has the highest rate of 3-point games in the FBS this season. We added 3 more this past weekend, which we talked about earlier in the program. So really some fun stuff, exciting stuff that will shape out this weekend as well. Well, the stories behind the programs that we've added of recent in Conference USA with Kennesaw State this year, Jacksonville State winning the Conference USA championship last year, and then you look at Missouri State and Delaware this year, these programs have been doing some really exciting stuff. Kennesaw State clinched bowl eligibility last weekend. Missouri State with their 6th win, even though technically not bowl eligible at this point. A lot of stuff has to happen. Delaware still on the path to get 6 wins as well. What has impressed you most about these programs? And I just have to give my flowers to us adding those programs because those were some incredibly great ads for Conference USA. But what has impressed you most about those programs?
I think probably the biggest thing is they've done exactly what they promised they would do. And they're still in the growing mode. So are their facilities all perfect? No, but they're committed and they're making those changes and those upgrades. And so, the schools that we've added have been incredibly ready to go. It's not like, one day they scratch their head and say, well, maybe we should go to FBS. I mean, they've been planning for it, and then they knew when they got their opportunity, they were gonna excel, and they all of them joined. We're not just in this to, we want to compete and win the championships. And so I've been incredibly impressed with their commitment, their dedication to moving up to FBS, and then the follow through. And so I think they've got some great coaches leading those programs. And it's to see the young guys on the field just so excited is what makes it all worth it.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to leave football in the past here for a second because we've got some really exciting other sports happening around the league right now, including basketball season, which just began this past week. But now as the season gets underway, we have several Conference USA programs that are in some really exciting MTEs and some early season tournaments. Liberty winning the Field of 68 tip-off that they hosted this past weekend. They beat out FAU and Charleston, not slouches at all, to be able to go and get those victories. And then you look at WKU heading to the Battle of Four, Atlantis, and Missouri State is taking on some power programs early in this season. How important are these opportunities for the league's visibility on the basketball side?
Yeah, I think we've talked about scheduling in a number of different places. Scheduling is so hard. And so when these teams get an opportunity to play highly ranked teams or teams with a lot of history, it's really important for us to show, because once you get to league play, you're going to go 500. And so what you do in the non-conference is key. I was at Liberty this weekend and got a chance to see both their men and women play. And there are defending reigning champs. Really impressive. I know the women have a lot of new players, but the men's team returns almost everyone, and then they've added a few key players. And so to see what especially their men did in the Field 68, those were 2 really good opponents that they beat. And
handily, yes.
pretty well. So that was exciting to see. But anytime any of our teams can get the opportunity to play these teams, then they can show. I think our league on both the men's and women's side has incredible depth. I really do. And, probably every year people say these kind of things, but I really feel like on both sides we could have multiple bids in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think that you're right as well. There's been a lot of conversation around the office about players that people have returned, players that have been picked up in the transfer portal that have really helped bolster these teams for that possible multi-bid opportunity there at the end of the season. One thing I wanted to mention is on the women's basketball side, there's been some coaching changes, obviously, but I think that there have been 2 really great things that have happened. One, I guess both in the offseason, but Liberty's Carrie Green retired as the winningest coach in Liberty Athletics history this past year. Rick Insell was just inducted into the Conference USA Hall of Fame and is getting really close to that 500 career win mark. What does it mean to celebrate leaders that of that caliber within Conference USA?
Yeah, you talk about those 2 guys. Incredible what they've done for women's basketball. Kerry was at the Liberty women's game, so I had a chance to visit with him. He retired kind of abruptly, and so I hadn't been really seen him in person or been able to celebrate him. I know they're going to do something for him when their women play Duke at home. I mean, they got Duke to come play their women at home. And so, Kerry's a big fisherman. He's been out on the lake doing a lot of fishing, but you can tell, it's hard. It's still hard to transition from coaching when you've been doing that for so long. But you think about all of the young women that these two guys have impacted, and it's incredible what Rick Insell has done throughout his entire career in high school and then at Middle Tennessee. We put him in our Hall of Fame. I think he's already in 7 or 8 Hall of Fames. And just a tremendous coach, and their consistency at the top of our league for a long, long time. They've set the standard. Now we got teams like Liberty that's coming in. We have Missouri State coming in on the women's side. But it's great to be able to celebrate these people and what they've done and what they've contributed. It's really incredible.
Absolutely. I think that, from the outside perspective looking in, a lot of people look at Conference USA on the women's side, especially as being a league that has a lot of history and talent. I mean, we had Missouri State now this year, which has a lot of great history and talent as well. Super excited to see what happens in Huntsville at the end of the season. Another one of those things that there's no telling who's going to win that one. So just like on the football side, we'll have to wait for March for that one. Well, as we start winding down towards the end of the year, our fall championships are beginning to wrap up. We have 2 in the books, 2 more to take care of before the end of the year. So you mentioned a little bit earlier that you got to see some basketball games up at Liberty this weekend. You were there for a lot of different athletics events, an athletic road tour, if you want to say. You got to see the Conference USA Soccer Championship there on Friday, catch some football on Saturday, and then those 2 basketball games like you mentioned. But Liberty captures their second Conference USA Soccer Championship in 3 years. What stands out to you about the program's consistency and success on the pitch?
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. It's the consistency. They have a lot of depth. They play really well together. They have a freshman that scored the first 2 goals, Lauren Flax. Had a one-on-one move early that everybody was kind of like, whoa, what just happened? And then Ivy Gardner, who was their offensive MVP, led the tournament in goals. Really outstanding player. She scored the final goal for them. And then the defensive MVP, Lauren Littleton. I mean, it's a full team effort, but really that consistency in the depth and how they play together.
Well, moving now to our next Conference USA Championship that's coming up, heading into volleyball, perennial powerhouse in that league, WKU at the top once again, but right there with them, UTEP, both sitting at 13-1 in league play, top 40 in the RPI. UTEP right now sitting at 19, WKU at 39. Their team split the regular season series. They don't play each other again. FIU follows closely at 12-2, and then Kennesaw right behind them at 10-4. What excites you most about this season as we approach the Conference USA Volleyball Championship?
Yeah, a lot of credit to WKU because they've always kind of been the standard bearer in volleyball, and Coach Travis Hudson. And but the UTEP program has really taken off last year and this year. I know they've had some injuries last year, but they're playing incredibly well. When those two played each other, it's kind of a weird split because both of them went 3-0 on the day that they obviously took the match. But the depth in volleyball as well, what FIU is doing, what others are doing. But I credit those guys at the top for setting the tone and kind of showing how we can do this. But our volleyball is much improved, very exciting. Last year we had 2 teams. Could we get 3? I don't know, but we are hopeful we'll have 2 again. So a good sport for Conference USA.
Definitely. And CUSA right now, as it stands, sitting 9th among all Division I conferences in the RPI, which is a great thing to see as well. Well, moving on kind of to some different policies and things that are going on in the NCAA right now, governance,
the things that people love to talk about, of course. Let's talk a little bit about the NCAA's move to the single football transfer window coming up in early January. It marks a significant shift in the landscape of college football. How do you see this change, I guess, impacting student athletes and programs across the conference?
Yeah, I think the hope is to calm the system down a little bit, and so that teams, coaches will know what their roster is when they go through spring or summer activities, that those individuals will be there in the fall. And it still gives the young men an opportunity to move if they choose to move. So I think it's a compromise. One thing people forget about in the transfer portal is the student athletes that don't transfer. So you think, this is my team. You think you're going to have a great year. And then in the past, after spring ball, a couple of my best players just left. Wait a minute, what happened? I chose to stay. We are all going to stay. And so I think that element of it doesn't get talked about, the kids that actually stay. So hopefully this will bring a little more stability. We're never going to get to a incredibly stable part with the transfers, but it also gives the kids an opportunity for those that want to move can move.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because I do think that, the transfer window in general is all about the student athlete and giving them more opportunity to get to different programs. But you don't think about the ones that stay very much. There's a lot of stuff to talk about there from even like a mental health standpoint when you're talking about guys who just choose to stick with their program while everyone else is moving around. So I appreciate you mentioning that as well. So there's also been some discussion on the basketball side around expanding the NCAA men's basketball tournament from 68 to 76 teams. From your perspective as commissioner and a former committee member, what are the pros and cons of the potential expansion, and would you support the change?
Yeah, and I think if we expand both the men's and the women's. So I think that's an important part. And we have different television partners for both. So there are a lot of logistics that have to work and make sense. Obviously, I'm for more opportunity. The event right now is in my mind, one of the best sporting events that the country has. Mm-hmm. So we don't need to mess it up. And it has to work for TV on both the men's and women's side, and it has to work financially. In this day and age, every dollar counts, and so people do not want the units that we now get to be diminished in any way. So there are a lot of parts to it, but generally, I am in favor of more opportunity.
Yeah, and absolutely for a league like Conference USA, it's just more opportunity to have those multi-bid years. I know that I've been here for just a little under 8 years, and there's been some years in the past 7 where we should have had 2 teams in this year. We definitely should have had 2 teams in this year. And it does just give some opportunity there for some other Division I programs. Moving on to the finalized House settlement and the updated bylaws from that. Overall, do you view those changes as a positive a positive evolution for college sports, or do they present new risks and uncertainties for conferences and institutions?
We need guidelines, and then we need a process where if people don't follow the guidelines, there's significant penalty for that to help encourage the behavior. I don't think anyone working in college athletics right now, I shouldn't say anyone, there might be someone, but they want to know what the guidelines are and that everybody else is doing the same thing. And so I think we're making progress. We wanted it all to be perfect when it was rolled out, and that's just unreasonable to expect that. So the more progress we can continue to make, I do think Brian Seeley is doing a great job and needs more staff really to help him. But these are all steps to hopefully rein in some of the behavior. I mean, at some point, if somebody wants to cheat, they're going to figure out a way. And, every time a rule is passed, everybody thinks, not everyone, a lot of coaches might be like, okay, where are the loopholes? How do I get around this? We've got to get to a place where we're all abiding by it. And maybe that's a fantasy. I don't know. But I think the progress is real and significant. So we'll keep working on it.
Yes. And at the end of the day, all of these big changes are for the overall health of the student athlete. So how a follow-up question to that, how is Conference USA right now positioning itself to adapt to this new governance and financial landscape while maintaining its commitment to the competitive equity and student athlete experience?
Yeah, I got to give our membership a ton of credit because from the coaches through the ADs to the board, we've had real conversations about what's going on and how do we make sure that we remain competitive and get better. And so we we decided we're not going to put rules in from the get-go. We're going to take a moment, see if we can evaluate the landscape, and then see where we fit. And so we actually hired an outside consultant to help us understand the landscape and where everyone sat and what people were spending, to be really honest. And then went through the process with our ADs and our board. And our board, sat in a room, president to president, and decided to commit to some standards in this league. And I think that's really important, and it's going to guide us for the next 3 years. But I think it's important we took a step to, it's easy to make decisions based on what you think is out there, but when you don't have data, it's really hard. And so we took a step to get some of that data and then make commitments as institutions. And I'm really proud of our group. And so we do have, I think, the Americans, another one that has made a minimum investment. So Conference USA now joins them in doing that. And we're going to help our programs grow from there.
Absolutely. And it's nice to see, I think, for a lot of fans out here who listen to the program, a little peek behind the curtain of some things that happen internally within the league that you don't always get to hear about or see. So thank you so much for sharing that. My final question for you just kind of has to do, again, with the student athlete and the different initiatives that our SAC committee has, Student Athlete Advisory Committee, for those of you who don't know. And we have continued a strong push on student athlete mental health and the importance of that. We just finished up a social media campaign around Mental Illness Awareness Week and World Mental Health Day. Our green out games are all rolling still throughout the fall season. How meaningful is it to see student athletes leading those conversations across campuses on top of all the service work and all the work they're doing in the classroom and in their sports?
Yeah, that definitely is the key. If the student athletes, are not the ones out there, I mean, the older adults, I know they're young adults, can talk all day long and we can bring in speakers and we can do a number of things. But when it's a peer to peer, it becomes, I think, a lot more real and a lot more beneficial to student athletes. So our SAC has been incredible about focusing on mental health and the awareness and the conversations that we need to continue to have. The thing is, we can't take our foot off the gas on this one because, every day we just had a tragedy here locally with a Dallas Cowboy player, and that can't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more we can talk about it, the more we normalize it, the better it can be. And I think our schools are committed to provide resources for student athletes that need some help. But it's getting the student athlete to say, I need some help. And so as we normalize it throughout the league and throughout teams and with student athletes on campus, we've made tremendous progress.
Absolutely. And I found out we have a SAC call coming up this week where they're going to discuss some more things. So our SAC committee getting together to discuss some other initiatives that may be happening around the league throughout the rest of the season. So we may be able to talk about a few more of those next time. But Judy, thank you so much for the time today. Like I said, I think that our fans out there appreciate a little peek behind the curtain every once in a while. And I know that I enjoy these conversations as well. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much to Commissioner Judy MacLeod for joining the program once again to give us a little peek and insight into what happens here at the conference office. But now we're here to talk about some football, and joining me again is Josh Yonis. So happy to have you to talk some more
I don't know, craziness out there.
Yeah, there was nothing else to say about week 11 than it was absolutely crazy. And this was probably one of the hardest top 5 play segment to come up with because we probably could have done a top 15 if we really wanted to.
It's tough. And there's going to be some people out there that don't like the order, but you got to stick with us, okay? Here are our top plays from week 11 before we get things going. All right, here we come in at number 5. Let's see who it is. Okay. Sam Houston, blocked punt for a TD, getting their first win in Corvallis.
Yeah, I mean, the special teams came to play in this one, had 2 special teams touchdowns in the second half. This one to win it for the Bearcats, get their first in the win column. Honestly, I mean, a great scoop and score by 44 here, but honestly, I think the most impressive part of this play was the block itself. I mean, he's got one arm tied up in a blocker and then manages to reach over, swat that one down.
Yeah,
so
he stayed up for this one. It was actually a lot of really great stuff, and if you had told me that the Bearcats' first win was going to come against Oregon State, I would have told you that you were a liar. So here we go. At number 4, we got JoJo Stone's 49-yard reception for a touchdown.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, this is equally good by JoJo Stone to shed the defender here at the end and get into the end zone, but also an incredible pass by Joe Pazanski, gets the spot start for the Panthers, and he's dishing out plenty of throws like this. We'll talk more about him later, though.
Dropped it right in the bread basket. All right, here we go. Number 3. Okay, this is the one I thought people might get a little upset about. Tristan Gardner's 13-yard reception for a touchdown that won it for Missouri State in Liberty.
Yeah, and he's a freshman making catches like that. Just an unbelievable year for him so far. Yeah, hauls it in over the defender there for the game winner. Just an awesome story for the Bears this season.
Absolutely, and no doubter there. Here we come in at number 2. Gabe Benyard, 34-yard reception for a touchdown. This one was pretty called not a touchdown at first, but they reviewed it.
This one was such a good catch that they didn't think it was a catch.
Yep, they reviewed it, got the call right there at the end. He slides that foot in for the TD, and that was another great one out of Benyard there. And coming in at number 1, I mean, you can't deny the prize. We flubbed this a little bit. This is technically 2 plays, but we get Delaware's onside kick recovery, followed by the game-winning field goal.
2 plays. It was the same guy.
True.
Well, we'll get off on that one, but yeah, Nate Reed squeaks this one there in the bottom corner of the uprights to win it here for the. I mean, just an insane. Again, we'll talk more about the ending of this game. Yeah, what a perfect top play for this week.
Yes. So we don't talk a whole lot about kickers and special teams and things like that on this program. But
we
Nate
had
Reed,
two of the top 5 plays this week were special teams.
Nate Reed absolutely deserved that number 1 spot after what he did in that game on Saturday. Speaking of Saturday, let's run down all the matchups that we had, do a little bit of recapping here for the folks out there before we go into our interview segments. But let's start out with Missouri State at Liberty. It was a noon Central Time kick. And the day before, Liberty and Missouri State met each other in the women's soccer championship, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So lots of fans there came out for this one, and Missouri State came out on top.
Yeah, I mean, this was, I think if you took the final 2 minutes of all the games this weekend, you probably could have turned each one of those into their own documentaries. Each one came with some wacky plays. This one, we had a double fumble that, Ethan Vasco fumbles, they're at the third, they're just across midfield, I think. He fumbles. They kind of kick the ball around. Missouri State scoops it up at the half-yard line, coughs it up. Liberty recovers it in the end zone. They end up going 3 and out, and then Missouri State drives down the field with ease to go and win this game. They think that they have the celebration of victory, pride from them, and then they still manage to go and win this game. But yeah, just an incredible, resilient effort by the Bears in this one.
Absolutely. And Missouri State gets to their 6th win of the season. Is that correct?
Yeah. And they were even celebrating they made their own bowl eligible shirt, which is a little bold. But yeah, they need some help to get to a bowl game, but they're certainly excited about the possibility that in year 1 of FBS, they could be bowling just as Jack State was 2 years ago in their first year. But nonetheless, awesome storyline for the Bears to go into Lynchburg and come away with a win. Just an incredible performance by Jacob Clark, by Tristan Gardner, who we just talked about. But the Missouri State defense really came up big in this one. They had a lot of you saw them just hitting their head, hitting the ground because they had so many dropped interceptions. I even texted Elizabeth on our staff she was watching the game, and I was like, I feel like Missouri State should have like 8 interceptions at this point in the game. But ultimately, they get one at the end to seal the win for good. Jordan Dunbar gets his hand on one. So big win for the Bears.
Yeah, super exciting stuff. Liberty still an outside chance to make the championship and to even, I think, host the championship potentially, but very much an outside chance at this point with what they have left.
They get the
rest of the
season. I think they're more focused on just getting to a bowl game now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that was quite the thriller to start off the day, but possibly, I mean, I don't know how you're going to say it any other way. The best game of the day was Louisiana Tech at Delaware. Got a lot of national publicity out of this game because of how it ended.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that one. 24-25 final. And you saw that play that ended it all there for Delaware and made them come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, Delaware scores 9 points in a span of 34 seconds, in the final 34 seconds, I should say. And, to stun the Bulldogs, they score the touchdown they need. They go for 2, don't come away with it. A lot of people, including myself, think, oh, this one's done.
Yep.
Louisiana Tech's going to come away with a win. And this is also after, again, I talked about how the last few minutes of these games were insane. This was after Jacob Fields had returned an interception for a touchdown that really we thought doomed Delaware.
Yep.
And then Delaware ends up, going down scoring. They get the onside kick, get Nate Reed just close enough to where he can sneak that game-winning field goal in.
Yeah.
An incredible finish and rightfully got a lot of love nationally.
Yes, for sure. I mean, that 51-yarder, that is not a shoo-in for anybody out there. And I just can't, there's something about when the team executes an onside kick the way that they did. It really made me excited. I texted our whole group. I'm like, that might have been the best onside kick that I have seen in a long time. So really exciting stuff out of them. Delaware sitting at 5 wins now on the season. They're on the cusp of that potential bowl eligibility as well. Super exciting stuff out of them. But Louisiana Tech drops to 3-3 in conference. Again, not looking good for their chances of a Conference USA championship, which was a very different story a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of that. I predicted they were going to be in our conference championship game because like you said, the way they were playing 3-4 weeks ago, I thought we're for sure either going to Ruston or we're seeing them play somewhere else. And I know that, obviously they've had some injuries that on defense that have really hindered them, but it's just kind of been some execution stuff that we saw at the end of this game that didn't go their way. So we'll see if they can kind of right the ship a little bit from here.
Yep. And then, Delaware goes to Sam Houston next week. And then Louisiana Tech goes to Washington State, which we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Very winnable game for them, but coming off of a loss like that, I know that they're looking to pick up another one. So I think the other game, let's talk about these 2 p.m. games. We had a bunch of them. FIU at Middle Tennessee, we saw that play from them during our top plays. What did you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, I was when I saw that Kewan Jenkins wasn't going to be playing for him, I was a little nervous, just because we've seen a lot of good from Middle Tennessee, and I thought, okay, this may be the edge they need. Playing a backup quarterback, kind of thrown into this spot, but. Going back to our conversation in the preseason, we brought up Joe Pizanski and his career at Furman as a 4-year starter, and they brought him in for this exact reason, right? You'd obviously never want to plan for or hope for an injury on your team, but they felt very good that if anything happened to Kewan or if his performance started to dwindle, that they could really turn to him, and he absolutely answered the call. 5 total touchdowns in this game. First time an FIU player has ever scored 5 touchdowns in a game.
Wow.
Which is crazy. Had 4 passing, 1 rushing. This was just a total team effort too. Keyshawn Owens, the story in this one was Joe Pizanski. Keyshawn Owens still scored 2 touchdowns in this one. Alex Perry had a good game for them. I know we talked about him a lot when we previewed their season as a newcomer on that offense. Caught 2 touchdown passes. But this FIU defense, talk about capitalizing on mistakes.
Yeah, FIU defense turned 3 Middle Tennessee turnovers into touchdowns.
Yeah.
So that was a tough one for the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders. Middle Tennessee did pull within 3 at one point, but then FIU went and scored on their next 5 drives, I think it was.
They just put pedal to the middle, like it was all gas, no brakes for them. So yeah, big win for the Panthers. I know it's been kind of an up and down year for them. So hopefully, yeah, again, another team sitting at 4-5 with them going against Liberty this week, who's got their boat sitting in that same boat right now that, you need 2 wins in these last 3 games. That one's going to be a huge one.
Yep, for sure. And we talked about this a little bit when we were previewing this game last week, but the Middle Tennessee defense just didn't stand up like they needed to against FIU, and unfortunately just could not pull away in this one. Yeah. So the FIU Panthers won this one handily, and they will be facing Liberty, like you said, next week, which we'll talk about here in just a few minutes. All right, the next 2 games, we're going to talk a lot about them at the end of our program, but Jacksonville State at UTEP, Kennesaw State at New Mexico State. They went to the West, both came out with wins, but they were gritty, tough ones that they had to come out on top with. Which ones do you want to start with?
Yeah, let's start with Jack State UTEP. I was watching that game pretty intently, and from the gate, I mean, this one was quite a game. Both teams early on had huge 75-yard touchdown passes, and it was just like bang, bang. I mean, it was seriously touchdown, kickoff, touchdown. And so I was like, whoa, all right, we're in for a doozy here. And then it kind of, calmed down a little bit. Jack State really settled into a nice 17-7 lead with that Caleb Nix pick 6, his second defensive touchdown of the year.
Yep.
Also have to throw in brother of Bo Nix,
which we didn't find out until last week, I think.
Yeah, right. And it's funny because now more people are starting to catch on. And so when he's doing highlight reel stuff like that, a lot of people are like, oh, look at what Bo Nix's brother is doing. So, we get a few.
His name is Caleb.
Yeah,
his name's not Bo Nix.
But, huge play there that kind of gave them, I think, what ended up being a very pivotal touchdown in a 3-point game, but left it up to Rip of the Kicker,
Rip of the Kicker. Lots of games left up to the kicker this week.
I know, yeah. But Jack State, very, textbook game for them. Caden Creel and Cam Cook combined for 261 yards rushing in this one. So they survive out in the desert. So doesn't Kennesaw State.
Mm-hmm.
It was a huge, a very fast start for Kennesaw, which is, what we're used to with them.
Right.
I thought this one was also going to get out of hand, and it ended up being a lot closer than we thought.
Yeah. Kennesaw State jumped out early to 17-0 lead. But then Mexico State, they didn't lay down. They kept coming back, scoring more points. I think that in both of these games, you had some Kennesaw State and Jack State fans holding their breath there until the very end. But Amari Odom, who we're going to talk to here in just a few minutes, had a really great game. 3 touchdown passes, 2 going to Gabe Benyard, who he gives a shout out to during that interview. But Kennesaw State showed that they can still win when it matters. 7 straight wins for that team. So they're doing some big things.
And I think, as much as they're doing on offense, and I know that you asked Amari about this in the interview, as much as they're doing on offense, they're also doing on defense. 6 sacks, 14 tackles for loss last one. They had the UTEP O-line on their heels all day.
Absolutely. That's New Mexico State O-line on their heels. It's fine. Jacksonville State and Kennesaw State both went over.
It was so confusing. You keep to decide.
It was a little confusing for sure. But yeah, we'll talk more about Kennesaw State here in a minute. They have an insanely tough slate to finish out the season, so we'll get to that. But to finish it all out at the end of the night, Sam Houston at Oregon State. That game was at 9 p.m. Central.
You almost made it.
I almost made it to the end. I texted Josh at 7 a.m. the next morning. I was like, I fell asleep at midnight. I'm so sorry. But it was really great. When I dozed off around halftime, I was like, they could win this game. Mm-hmm. It had gotten to a point where Oregon State wasn't playing great. Sam Houston was looking good. Lots of special teams performances in this game for sure. And yeah, they couldn't get it done. The Oregon State, what are they? Beavers.
Yeah.
And Corvallis. My favorite stat, though, I want you to read it, is your first bullet point here, because I'm not sure that I've ever seen this ever.
Yeah. And when I saw the box score, I was just like, okay, this is great. This has got to be historic. And I honestly thought it was going to be a first, but I was kind of surprised at how many other times this had happened. But Bearcats outgained by 317 yards in this game. Since 1996, only one team, UNLV in 2003, had been outgained by more yards and won on the road.
That means that Oregon State went down the field 3 more times than they did, and they still came out on top. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was definitely, I'm sure this was a tough pill to swallow for Oregon State. We have zero sympathy because we were very happy for Sam Houston.
Yes, exactly.
But this was special teams, again, was the story in the second half. The big kickoff return for a touchdown, the block punt. But really, the Sam Houston defense came up big in this one. We talked about how important turnovers were going to be in this game because of how many turnovers Sam Houston has forced, how many turnovers Oregon State has given up.
Right.
And they capitalize on that for sure. So congratulations to the Bearcats. I'm sorry that I called your game pure sicko committee material.
But it kind of was with all of the special teams touchdowns and the forced turnovers and things like that. Lots of fun. Congratulations to the Bearcats on their first one of the season. Well, week 11 is in the rear view mirror. We've got two incredible student athletes to talk to coming up right here. First, we are going to chat with Kennesaw State quarterback Amari Odom, and then we are going to chat with Jacksonville State's Cam Cook. Both of those interview segments are brought to you by Victory Snacks, and you can watch them in just a second. All right, Conference USA fans, we have a special interview for you today brought to you by our partner at Victory Snacks. We have from Kennesaw State, Amari Odom, QB extraordinaire, joining us there from Kennesaw, Georgia. Amari, thank you so much for joining the program.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah, for having me. Glad to be on.
Absolutely. Well, I just kind of want to ask you a little bit about this Kennesaw State team. Obviously, you guys have done some big things this year, made a lot of noise so far. 5-0 in Conference USA, 7-2 overall, 7 straight wins, and bowl eligibility. I mean, that is a mouthful. How have you guys just melded together as a team going into this season? And what are you looking forward to with the last 3 weeks of the regular season coming up?
I think just going into the season, we had a lot of new guys coming into the summer. Coach Mack and the staff brought in a lot of new guys. So we just had to bond very quickly before our season got started. And I think the 2 early losses to very good Power Forward programs just really bonded us together. And then we came home, had 4 straight home games in front of great fans, great turnout. So we just bonded over wins. We get better each and every day. We joke, we laugh. We like to have fun, as you guys see on the field with this team. So that's just what really propelled us throughout this 7-game win streak. And with the last 3 games of the season, we just need to finish strong. We always talk about finishing in the fourth quarter, and we're in the fourth quarter of this season right now. So just for us finishing strong and then continuing to win, having fun, that's just what's most important for us going forward.
Well, I love that you mentioned having fun, and I know that a lot of people think that fall camp isn't very fun, especially when you came from such a competitive fall camp like you did. But I know that you guys get a real chance to bond during that time. Yeah. But talking about the competitiveness in the quarterback room there for Kennesaw State, obviously you guys had a great roster. You didn't win the job initially, but now here towards the tail end of the season, you've got that QB1 job. What was that process like for you? And how has it taught you more about being just like a player and a leader in that locker room?
I think for me personally, it just helped my career develop. Like it helped me learn growth early on, just find adversity. Coming into the spot, I was a starter at what my previous school, Wofford. So just learning the ropes from a very good older guy, Dexter, my guy. The first 2 weeks, and then taught me more about myself, just to push harder and keep working throughout the summer and throughout fall camp. It was just very competitive, as you said, and we have guys, Tommy, Dex, we've all played, we've all started on the highest level in college you can play. So just having that quarterback competitive room, we're very close now. We joke all the time. Those are my guys. So having that very competitive quarterback room has been helpful. We stick to each other through thick and thin throughout the whole season, ups and downs. So I love those guys.
Awesome. I love to hear you talk about that. I think every quarterback kind of has that moment where it clicks for them, whether it's their first season or their third season or their third game in or whatever it may be, when they feel like they truly have command of their offense and a confidence going into what they're doing every single Saturday or Tuesday when you're in Conference USA. You just never know. But was there a time for you when you really felt like it clicked and you had total command of your offense?
I want to say the Arkansas State game. Obviously, the numbers speak for themselves. My performance I had, but that game, we really saw what on the offense side what we can really do, what we can accomplish. It wasn't a perfect game, and we still haven't played a perfect game yet on offense, the side of the ball. But that really showed for me and for the team that what we can really do on offense, how we can put up numbers and score points quick. And so from then on, we just, me and Dex have taken turns being the leader of the team, no matter who steps on the field. The offense knows what we can do, and once we put together a complete game, we'll be scary to stop.
Well, we know that throughout the season, you have had a little bit of the injury bug bite you from time to time, and you haven't always been out there on the field. What was it like for you watching from the sideline and being able to see your team still get out there and perform like they have been?
It's been fun because, when we're scoring points and we're winning, that's just the most fun thing any team can go through. And with me being the leader of the team, even being sideline, I was having the most fun you could see. You saw it on television, saw it on the broadcast. I was smiling up and down the sideline. With the defense made a turnover, special teams scored a touchdown, whatever. I'm up and down the sideline, just having fun, smiling. Never got out of it, was always locked in. Always still leading the guys, no matter even if I wasn't playing. And so it's just been a big joy, especially when we're winning. Everybody's smiling, and that's just what we like to do as a team. So.
Well, I could see your personality there on the sideline in those games like you were talking about. But one of my favorite things, I think it was last week's game, you scored a touchdown and did this Michael Jackson-esque celebration there after your touchdown. Where does that personality come from? Are we going to see some more touchdown sellies as the season goes along?
Touchdown sellies, of course. Every touchdown I've scored this year, I've always had a celebration or two in mind. So I like to dance. That's what I like to do. A couple of TikToks we made after some games have gone viral. Me and my little freshman receiver Clayton Kopic. But that's just me. I like to dance. Always on the practice field. Throughout meetings, that's just me. I'm dancing. I'm very competitive. So if you see me dancing on the field, just know I'm having fun. But of course, I got some celebrations backed up. The MJ one, that was just kind of a little celebration I had a while ago since I was a freshman at Wofford. I just always wanted to do the MJ moonwalk celebration, but I mean, that's just me. I got some celebrations still stuck up my sleeve. So if we score some more points, you'll get some more dances.
Well, I can't wait. It was one of my favorite things about watching that game. Well, you talk about your receiver who you're making TikToks with, but you guys are making plays on the field as well. You have great chemistry that you've built up with your receivers and your running backs. Are there any guys in particular that you want to give some flowers to that have done great things this season that maybe the nation isn't talking about?
Well, to start off with, everybody know about Gabe Benyard, our return man, our guy number one. He's been great for us. But Christian Moss, my dog, DB stepped up playing quarterback last year. Davis Bryson, Leonard Rivard, my Cali brother from Fresno State. He's been a big part. Javon Rogers, Novell Dean, who's been playing with some ankle injuries. Clayton, as I stated, G, our tight end, and all of our running backs, Diggs, Coleman, Chase. Those guys have been great for us. Can't forget Takeem, but all of our receivers, like, we just have a bond. Quarterback, our skill guys, we have a bond. We're always joking, like I said. And then when we get on the field, we're on the same page. So that really helps when we have that bond off the field. We be on the same page when defenses are giving us tough looks. It always helps to have that bond with the guys because we score points and we always have fun. So it's always good to have that.
Well, you talk about your skill guys, but I know you want to give your offensive line some love here too. So you can go ahead and shout out those guys because we know that they're doing a huge amount to protect you back there.
Yep. Shout out to all my old linemen, JC, JD, Brandon Best, Millie, Cam, and can't forget JT. Those guys have been great for us. They won Lineman of the Week a few weeks ago for our team. Our center Josiah just won Offensive Lineman of the Week in conference. So just to have guys like that, we haven't really let up a real sack in a few weeks. So just to have those guys up front protecting me and not getting me hit, that's just wonderful. I take them out to eat a couple times, so they'll be getting a dinner soon from me. But I love those guys, so appreciate them a lot. And we got some more work to do coming up. So hopefully that Great Wall of Kennesaw holds up strong for a few more games.
I love it. Great Wall of Kennesaw. That's going to go down in the book for sure. Well, you talk about how you haven't been taking as many sacks lately. You also started the season as a team really giving up a couple more turnovers than you have of late. You guys have really shored that up. What's been going on at practice, or what's Coach Mac telling you guys to really help that be better towards the back end of the season than it was at the beginning?
Well, Coach Mac always preaches more games are won than lost in this conference, and the biggest thing with those teams who lose games is the turnover battle. And if you're winning the turnover battle, you're most likely winning the game. And that's for us, the 5 conference games we've been in, we've won the turnover battle or at least tied it. And that's been a big part. Our running back coach, Coach Wall, and Coach Mack being running back coaches, they talk about ball security every day in meetings, all that. Every single coach on the offense side of the ball talks about ball security. Our defensive coaches preach getting the ball out. So our offensive guys are learning that. Every defense trying to get the ball out. So for us, ball security has been big, and we've taken care of the ball this past game. I had a couple timely picks that were bad decisions on my part, but for the most part, we've taken care of the ball, and that's what's been helping us win games late in conference.
And not only have you been taking care of the ball on offense, but it's got to give you lots of confidence to see your defense go out there and be able to score points and be able to get you guys back on the field as well without having the other team score points. What are you seeing out of your defense and even your special teams right now, who has been getting some points on the board? What are you seeing out of those guys, and how does that give you confidence as a quarterback to know that those fellas got your back?
As you said it, those fellas have our back and we have theirs. If the defense is struggling, us on offense, we're going to have their back and put points on the board. Same with special teams. If we're struggling on offense, defense is going to have our back like they did last game and create turnovers and get stops and put points on the board. So it just evens the stress on everybody. Everybody's less stressed when you got all three phases can score points in a hurry. And when we have a team like that, a very balanced team like that, it makes everything more fun, less stressful for everybody. Nobody has to carry the load.
All right. Done talking about the team and the chemistry and all the great things the Owls fans love to hear about, but you guys have a huge game coming up this weekend against Jacksonville State, who is also undefeated in conference play, just 80-something miles down the road, so it's a close game. Some would call it a rivalry game. I don't know if you guys are calling that internally, but that game got elevated to ESPNU. You guys are going to be on national television. What are you thinking about going into this weekend, and what can we expect out of the Owls on Saturday?
Well, for our offense side of the ball, we're gonna do our best to play a complete game. I know a few games of conference we've gone up 3, 2, 3, 4 scores and have been at a standstill on the offense side of the ball, not putting up points. This game, you're gonna expect a complete game from the Kennesaw State offense, and the defense is gonna show up like they do every week, create turnovers. Special teams are gonna do the same thing, pin them back deep, create field position, play the field position game with them. But offense side of the ball, we're gonna do our best to play a complete game. It's a little bit of a rivalry. We talk about it a little bit. They're obviously the closest team we have to us in conference, and we got JT, our starting lineman, who came from there. It's a little bit of bad blood talking trash on the internet, but it's just another game for us. It's probably the biggest game we're gonna play. They haven't lost in 11 conference games at home. It's their homecoming, I believe. It's just gonna be a good night on national TV for us to showcase our talent and go out there and compete.
It is. It's going to be a good one. When you look at the stretch of the rest of your season, I know it's next game up. But as I look at the next games that you guys have left versus Jacksonville State, Missouri State, and Liberty, those 3 teams are all sitting at the top of Conference USA right now. It may be the toughest stretch of any Conference USA team over the last 3 games of the season. What are you guys talking about in their locker room to keep that momentum high, keep the energy going? Because like it or not, if you want to listen to the media noise or not, you guys are playing for a chance in the Conference USA Championship back in these last 3 games of the season. So what's it like there on campus? How's the locker room talk going?
I'm not too sure about campus, but locker room talk and just within the team is just we just want to finish the season strong. We obviously know these are 3 great teams we play coming up, and then they're top of the standings, as you said. So we just got to play our game. I don't feel like there's a team that's beat us yet. We've always kind of beat ourselves, just mentally and physically. But that's just really it. It's just 3 great teams going up. We played against coming up, and I feel like if we do our job, we'll handle business. We just got to play together, play as one.
All right. I love it. Finish strong, handle business, play as one. All of these things we're looking forward to out of the Kennesaw State Owls. If the season ended today, Amari, it would still be one for the record books. It would be a great season here in 2025. But best of luck the rest of the way. Maybe we'll be seeing you a few weeks down the road.
Hope so. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Welcome back into another interview segment here on the CUSA Insider Pod, now joined by Jacksonville State running back Cam Cook. Cam, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Aptly named the chef, or nicknamed the chef. I got to ask, are you a chef yourself? Do you like to cook in the kitchen or just on the football fields?
You know, I like to stick to the field, but I can cook some, cook a good steak maybe.
All right. Well, let's start with your journey there to Jacksonville State. What went into your decision to transfer, to the program there, and what about the program, the coaching staff, really appealed to you?
Yeah, so in the transfer portal, I was looking for a school that would fit my play style. So just looking up the tradition of the school, how they run the ball, and how they want to dominate the line of scrimmage up front. Really caught my eye and really caught my parents' eye because my parents actually helped me a lot through the process. So yeah, I'll say just trying to find a place that really fit me.
Yeah, it certainly worked out for you. Produced some great results so far this season. You talked about the guys in the trenches out in front of you. What can you say about them and how helpful they've been in your success so far this season?
A bunch of dogs. No, the way that they practice, the way that our line practice is something I have never seen before. Coach OT Older Trickett. He the way he coaches them is hard, and he coaches me hard. He coaches everybody hard. Like nobody gets no type of slack. So just that type of grind and that type of energy in the locker room is real good. So, but I'll say for the O-line, like I said, it's nothing I've never seen before, the way that they work.
That's awesome. Well, you joined a program that's been on the rise since they joined FBS, been to bowl games in their first 2 years, already clinched bowl eligibility this season as well, coming off of a CUSA championship. What's been your impression about the culture there with the Gamecocks so far?
I think the culture, for me, all I've seen is just straight work. Like, a lot of people don't talk about the school. A lot of people don't get a lot of recognition. So for us, it's just keep your head down. And we've been working the whole time since I got here in the spring. It's just been a grind since January 14th. Like, I remember that.
Transferring always comes with challenges, new playbook, new coaches, new teammates. How did you approach that transition on and off the field?
Oh, I had to lock into the playbook for sure. Like, just stay locked into the playbook, trying to lead the guys around me. But I'll say just being able to with the coaches, that's what I'll say. With the coaches, how they helped me and wanted to make sure that I was getting the ball like as much as I could or doing whatever I could to help the team. Like, I knew I needed to be locked in on my plays and but yeah.
And going back to the off season, obviously you were a part of the wave, the turnover that Jacksonville State underwent from last year. Won a Conference USA championship. Obviously, Rich Rodriguez leaves. A lot of players enter the portal. But what was the mindset inside the locker room as you guys prepared for this season and what was considered to be a rebuild year? But obviously, you guys have turned that into much more.
Well, I think Coach Kelly, one thing that he said when he first got here, well, the first thing I heard from him is we wanted to win every game. And we weren't able to do that in the beginning with our first 3 out-of-conference games. But I think those 3 games really set the standard for how nobody wanted to be there again. And we had put in way too much work for that. So we all got together and talked as a team to really, really change things around. Well, we really didn't need to change anything. We just need to play more together, play more, like just be more dominant on the field. Like if you want to win those away games, you got to be dominant the whole game. You can't start off slow. You need to start fast. So that was just something that we preached to the guys was starting fast and being able to finish the game. So
what's something fans might not see or know about what goes on behind the scenes with that amount of turnover, how you guys have been able to gel together as a team?
Yeah, that's also something with a lot of transfers. At TCU, we had transfers come in too, and that was always something that the coaches were trying to preach, like mixing all the guys in and make sure everybody is fitting in real good together. So I think that was something that we focused on, like just building a relationship as a team and making sure, like, once you know, like, all your guys want the same thing, everybody wants the same thing, like, it's not really that hard to gel together.
All right, let's talk about the big one coming up this weekend. Rivalry game against Kennesaw State. Both teams undefeated in Conference USA play so far. What are the vibes like in the locker room as you guys get towards this game?
The vibes, man, it's everybody on go. I think just from a standpoint, we had a talk yesterday, but on Sunday, but everybody locked in. It's real focused in the locker room right now. No smiles. We know what the goal is, and the team know what we're trying to do this weekend. It's a big game. It's a rivalry game, but it's still the same game. Every game is a championship game for us right now because that's what our goal is. So we got to take it one game at a time regardless.
Looking at this matchup a little bit, obviously Kennesaw State's defensive front presents a lot of challenges coming off a game where they just put up 14 tackles for loss. What stands out about their defense, and how do you prepare to attack a defense like that?
Yeah. To me, what stands out about their defense is just they are real dominant up front. And I just think they have a high motor. It's a high motor team. They want to start fast. But, I mean, that's something that we want to do too. So it's not really like something to just fall over about. But I think we're just going to have to, like I said, start fast from the beginning of the game. And then we're at home. We're going to have to finish. Like, let them know it's our home. So that's what it is.
As you look ahead to the rest of the season, I know you've already mentioned that the team's, locked in, taking it game by game. But as you head into these last few games, what's the, mindset like as you, potentially prepare to go back to a Conference USA championship game?
Yeah, I mean, my sister's saying, like I said, we taking every game the same. It's a championship game. Last week was a championship game at UTEP. This week a championship game at home versus Kennesaw, but nothing changed. We still have the same mindset the whole time.
For you personally, what's been the biggest area of growth as you've really flourished nationally? Just as a running back, as a leader, player. What's been the biggest area of growth for you?
I think the biggest area of growth for me would have been like the leadership role I took for this team. That wasn't something that I was able to do last year, just with the situation with how many seniors we had. But I say that leadership, and then knowing that the team is looking for me to like make some plays. So it comes down to me, it comes down to the rest of the team. But I know they got my back, I'm gonna have their back. So that's how I feel.
When you look at the team's journey so far this year, you talked about kind of the slow start, but obviously you guys have turned it around in conference play. What are you most proud of that the team's able to really lock in on to turn the year around a little bit?
I was saying our win on the road, like that first win we had on the road, I think that was really like a big change for the team. Like, because everybody knows it's hard to win on the road, so. And we hadn't got that as a team yet. So once we had that, I felt like we started to gel a little bit better. But just that mindset that we needed to go out and dominate. Once we had that, I felt like we was good.
As you go into this big rivalry game and down the stretch of the season, what's your message to Jack State fans?
To the fans, oh man, it's gonna be a show. Come out, we're going to do our part. We're going to dominate. So everybody pull up.
All right. I like it. It's a show. He's promising one. I'm sure that everyone is in tune for a great game this weekend. Thank you so much, Cam, again, for joining the show, and best of luck this weekend.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much to Amari Odom and Cam Cook for taking time out of their busy schedules to chat with us here on CUSA Insider. Now we move on to prepping for Week 12 and previewing all of these games that we have coming up this week. We've got some good ones on the slate for sure, including that Kennesaw State at Jack State game, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But starting out with the day, let's talk about UTEP at Missouri State. That game's at 2 p.m. Central Time on ESPN+.
Yeah, Missouri State comes back home. We talk about how good they are on the road. They did just pick up their first FBS home win a couple weeks ago when I was out there. But come back home with a relatively easy opponent in UTEP. And, they've already reached that 6-win mark. And I just kind of wonder, how much noise can they continue to make in year one as they go down the stretch here? Because especially if there's, I was talking about this with Delaware's SID earlier, if there's a chance that there's one bowl slot available for the two of them, now these games become so much more important because you need to make yourself attractive enough to bowl partners to say, oh, well, if we have to choose one, we want them, right? So just saying,
interesting conversation for sure. Absolutely. And I think, you said a relatively easy opponent in UTEP. Tell Jacksonville State that, because I had a little bit of a tough out.
This is true. And I did include here, Jacob Clark was on the run a lot against Liberty. And so I do have concerns there about this UTEP defensive front. If they, continue to do that and, not allow Jacob Clark to stand in the pocket and deliver passes, that could be trouble for Missouri State.
All right. Well, we'll see what will happen there. Looking for Skylar Locklear to get out there and perform well again for the Miners. We talked about this a little bit earlier. What would have been if he started at the beginning of the season? Well,
very true.
That's for other to talk about and not the Miner fans to not get mad at us about. So, so you can catch that one again at 2 p.m. Central Time. That game is on ESPN Plus. Coming up right after that, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. MTSU at WKU, the 75th meeting of 100 Miles of Hate, just 100 miles between Bowling Green and Murfreesboro. This is one that has been on the books as a huge rivalry game in Conference USA for several years. It has definitely been a little lopsided over the past couple, though, with the powerhouse that WKU has become in Conference USA. And I think that, again, this year, WKU might get out there and take this one.
Yeah, largely dominated by them recently. 6 straight wins in this rivalry game. Already saw confirmed today by Tyson Helton that Rodney Tisdale Jr. will be making his 3rd start.
All right, freshman.
Yeah,
go.
I know. His first taste of 100 Miles of Hate. So we'll see what he can do. We obviously know what we did his last time out, 301 yards, 4 touchdowns against New Mexico State. I'm sure he's looking to build on his opportunity to step in here for the Tops.
And you look at that WKU team, they got a week off this last week. The only team in Conference USA with a bye this past weekend. They get Middle at home in this rivalry game before they head to Death Valley next week to play a Tigers team that is floundering a little bit as well. So hopefully, they can build some momentum this weekend. I know that team is looking for that. And we have no idea what'll happen going into Death Valley. That game's going to be on SEC Network, so it's going to be a fun one.
Poor Rodney better take in these pressure moments now, because he doesn't know pressure until he has to trot out there at Death Valley. So, the more confidence he can build now to prepare himself for that moment. And then, of course, looking ahead, too, for WKU, we have what will almost certainly be a play-in game for the CUSA Championship between WKU and Jackson State in the final weekend of the season.
2 years in a row.
Again. So, WKU starts. I'm glad they got the week off. I'm sure, of course, we talked to Tyson Helton earlier in the year. It was not a week off, of course.
No weeks off.
A chance to rest before a very important stretch.
Absolutely. So that game, again, is at 2:30 p.m. Central Time on ESPN Plus. Another game right after that, we've got Liberty at FIU, another good conference matchup. That game's at 4 p.m. Central Time on ESPN Plus. Both teams sitting at 4-5, trying to keep those bowl eligible hopes alive. What are you looking for out of these two programs?
Yeah, I think the biggest question mark coming into this one is, are we going to see Joe Pazanski again? It's going to depend a lot on what Kewan Jenkins' health is like. And it's a tough decision for, Coach Willie Simmons, because we've seen this situation already playing out. We just talked about Rodney Tisdale. He's one where Maverick Piver can play. He's available to play, but because Rodney Tisdale is 100% and he's playing such good ball right now, can just feed the hot hand.
Yeah.
We saw it a little bit, with the Amari Odom, Dexter Williams situation. So I fear, or I shouldn't say I fear, but I feel like this is kind of another one of those situations where it's like, well, how do you not, give the ball right back to him after he throws for 4 touchdowns? But that's going to be the biggest question mark. And then I think for Liberty, we didn't talk about this last week, but lost Julian Gray for the season, lost linebacker Joseph Carter for the season. And I think you saw a little bit of that, these past couple weeks. Obviously, Evan Dickens stepping up in a big way for them, but they just don't have the same level of of athleticism on that offense without Juju Gray out there. And then I think, defense at that secondary level with Joseph Carter, leaving a big hole at that linebacker position. Can their reserves continue to step up and help them get a couple wins down the stretch?
Gotcha. And I mean, these two teams also have some tough games to finish out their season to try and get these bowl hopes, keep these bowl hopes alive. You look at next week, Jacksonville State's headed to FIU. Liberty goes to La Tech. And then I know, because I've looked forward at this one, Liberty gets Kennesaw State at home the last weekend of the regular season. So not an easy out for either of these teams to try and make it to 6 wins either. Yeah. So
I know we don't know who's going to be good at the beginning of the year, but I got a bone to pick with Trey on our staff. With our scheduler about
about the way that this worked out.
Yeah, because I feel like it was bad enough last year having 6 days prep on when we were going for the championship, but I feel like, we need to spread some of these games out.
It might happen once again, Josh. It might happen again. All right, another game that evening, in that evening slot, we've got Delaware at Sam Houston. Delaware coming off of a huge, gritty, gutsy win against Louisiana Tech. Sam Houston getting their first win of the season. It is a homecoming of sorts for Ryan Carty, which I think is a fun little storyline in this, because he was the Sam Houston OC from 2018 to 2021.
Yeah, won a national championship with them right before they left to join CUSA. So, it's going to be a cool storyline. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of emotions for him going back. I know he's not going back to Huntsville, but just going back to that area of the country again. But yeah, for Delaware, again, just going back to this potential bowl conversation, because we do have to continue to have this until, we for sure have those, 82 teams that are bowl eligible, is, you got to first get to that 6-win mark. So I think for them, that's kind of their next, their blinders are on. Let's just get this next win, get ourselves in the conversation, and then we'll go from there.
Yep. I think that if they, for whatever reason, make it to that 6-win mark with Missouri State and there aren't enough slots. This was a conversation 2 years ago with Jack State, the ineligible that they thought about having. I don't know. I think we may need to bring that back, because how not fair is it for them to not be able to make it there?
Yes.
Man. So we'll be looking out for the result of that one. It starts at 6 p.m. Central Time again on ESPN+. All right. This is the final conference game we're going to talk about. We're not going to do a whole lot of detail on it, because I feel like we've been talking about it this whole episode.
We let the guys on the field talk
That's
about
right.
it. Yeah.
And Commissioner MacLeod talked about it too, Judy, at the top of the segment. But Kennesaw State at Jack State, this game was elevated to ESPNU. The folks at ESPNU saw that it was a really important game. It's an old school rivalry with those two, and not the Sun Belt. The A-Sun. There's a sun in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And that game is at 7 p.m. Central Time, again, on ESPNU. Huge implications for the Conference USA Championship at the end of the season. Both of these teams sitting at 5-0 in conference play, but only one can come away with a win in the W column there. So what do you think?
Yeah, obviously a ton of pressure in this game, and certainly doesn't ruin anyone's chances or guarantee anyone anything, because we still have 2 weeks to play after this. But the winner of this game will be in a very, very, very good spot going towards the last couple weeks of the season. Just personally looking at this matchup, I talked about it with Trey earlier. I really like Kennesaw in this one, just because of just the way they come out of the gates in games. They're a very electric team. They can put you behind 17-0 before you even know it. Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at Jack State's kind of offensive identity, they obviously are very run heavy. Caden Creel, again, we've had this conversation about how similar he is to Tyler Huff, to where he can pass. He, had some great passes, including a big one to DeAndre Johnson this past week, but it's not his MO. So if you are able to limit the run game, as Kennesaw State has against a lot of teams, we talked earlier just about how good that defensive front was, 14 tackles for loss against New Mexico State. If they can continue to bottle up opponents like that, really like their chances in this one.
Yeah, I'm just happy that my potential CUSA champion opponents, they're still alive, my prediction.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. All right.
But I will say, Kennesaw State has we talked about some of these other teams, but they may have the toughest conference schedule to end out the regular season. They're not only fighting for just a berth in the Conference USA Championship, both of these both of these teams are fighting for a potential hosting opportunity for the CUSA championship as well. But Kennesaw State has Jacksonville State this weekend. Next weekend, they get Missouri State at home. And the weekend after that, to finish things off, they go to Lynchburg and play a Flames team who is not done yet and is very much still fighting for bowl eligibility like we were talking about earlier. So tough 3 games to finish the regular season for them.
Yeah.
We'll have to see if they can make it through the gauntlet.
Well, and we talked about Missouri State being the road warriors, 4-1 on the road this year. Already beat Marshall on the road. They just went and beat
Liberty.
Yes,
no problem.
Yeah. So, and obviously a couple others. So, that they are not afraid of anyone's house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's for sure. And their conference loss against WKU was a close one. So, and that was in Bowling Green as well. So, lots of really great storylines and stuff to look at for this weekend in that game. ESPNU again at 7 p.m. Central Time. Two other matchups that are in the non-conference this weekend. New Mexico State heads to Tennessee. That game is at 3:15 p.m. Central Time on the SEC Network. Who knows what'll happen in that game? Hoping that Logan Fife can throw it around the yard a little bit. But then to end out the night, Louisiana Tech heads to Washington State, 9 p.m. Central Time. Another one of those 9 p.m. on the CW kicks for us. It worked out well for us last week. I think it might work out well for us again.
I agree. And I think if you liked crazy football, at night on the CW last week, you'll certainly get a taste of it this week. We know what Louisiana Tech's defense can do in enforcing some mayhem and scoring some crazy touchdowns. So I would expect just the same from the Bulldogs.
And, some weird stuff with conference realignment and Oregon State and Washington State being out there on their own right now. But Washington State did drop one earlier in the year to Oregon State. So I don't know. You could see a win here from the Bulldogs. Transitive property. I like that. Well, that's it for our week 12 previews for football. Wanted to move to some other sports that are happening around the league. This past weekend in women's soccer, we crowned a CUSA champion.
Yeah, Liberty again, second time in 3 seasons they've won the soccer championship. They absolutely cruised to this title, and you don't see that a whole lot in CUSA soccer. It's usually pretty nitty gritty matches. They outscored opponents 9-1 through this tournament. They've won 9 straight matches. Entering the NCAA tournament, we just learned that they drew number 8 seed Clemson in the NCAA tournament. A very favorable matchup for them. Clemson didn't even qualify for the ACC tournament. They were near 500 play for the season. So a good matchup for the Lady Flames for sure.
So we'll definitely have to see what happens there. Not a bad travel for them either. I believe it is in Clemson. So not too bad, but that was a fun one. Just storyline wise there. Anytime the number 8 seed makes it to the championship, that's always fun, even though Missouri State, no slouches on the season in CUSA this year, but they just couldn't quite get it done against the Flames. But I just thought it was fun that you had that matchup the day before they matched up in football.
Yeah.
Opposite outcomes, though.
Right.
Flames took the first one in women's soccer. Missouri State obviously took that one in football. So, yeah, lots of great stuff there on women's soccer side. Congratulations again to the Lady Flames on their CUSA victory. But going to another sport that has a lot going on right now on the volleyball side. We talked about this with Commissioner MacLeod quite a bit, but we're heading into the final weekend of the regular season. We're going to start figuring out, are we having, I don't know how we get away from co-regular season champions at this point. Is that a lock?
I think it's almost guaranteed. Obviously, still, both UTEP and WKU have very tough tests coming up this weekend. UTEP hosts FIU, who's sitting right there behind this duo at 12-2 in conference play. So this could be a potential semifinal, maybe even a championship preview. Who knows? And then WKU goes on the road to Liberty, who's 8-6 in conference play, respectable. Certainly never easy in any sport for you to go on the road and win when you have to play back-to-back days. So there could be a potential for one of those teams to slip up and let the other take the crown and a coveted number 1 seed.
Yes, but we talked about this a lot too, with just how great this league has been in volleyball this year. Exciting to see what UTEP and WKU are doing. We'll be releasing a bracket this weekend, which is super exciting. So y'all be tuned into Conference USA social media for that. And then heading to next week, we'll have a Conference USA championship once again. So we'll probably get maybe we'll get Jess on the show to preview a little volleyball championship action. I don't know. I'm just speaking that she has no idea that I.
Well, and we have 2 interviews from our our team's trip to WKU a couple weeks ago with CUSA Hall of Famers Travis Hudson, who just had his statue unveiled on campus, and then Jessica Ludwig.
Yes,
correct. Yep. So we'll have their 2 interviews as well. But yeah, Jess will definitely be on here to preview that championship, our big volleyball packed episode. I'm excited for that.
That'll be some good stuff. But make sure you're tuned in to this weekend's final.
Giving you guys the teaser.
Regular season. It's almost done. Head to conferenceusa.com. Check out our schedule page if you would like to see when those games are happening and potentially watch them on ESPN+. All right, to round things out for today, we started basketball last week. Men's and women's both got out there and did some incredible things in week 1.
Yeah, on the men's side, I think what jumped out to me, I was kind of doing a little bit of research, putting together our notes, and I go to the standings page, and I'm like, there are not a lot of things in the loss column right now.
Nope.
As of us recording this on Monday, men's basketball teams are a combined 18-5.
Good job, guys.
Yeah. And we'll kind of give a caveat. A lot of these are the non-D1 opponents, but I will say I was talking to Eric Jones on our staff, and he said, I can't remember, looking back, like the amount of 100-point games, like blowout. So like the teams look good, right? And so obviously you have to take all these wins with a little grain of salt. But I think we're seeing a lot of good things out of some of our teams early on in the year. Liberty men hosted the Field of 68 tip-off event. That's kind of a rotation event between them, FAU, and Charleston. It came to them this third-year round. They won both games handily against Charleston and FAU. So some really good signs out of a Liberty program that we expect some really big things out of this year.
Yeah, for sure. And then on the women's basketball side, Middle Tennessee, Liberty, Missouri State, who are all at the top of our preseason poll, all start off with 2-0 starts with key non-con victories here as the season begins. So lots more basketball coming out. We had a game today that just popped. We had it on in the office here at our wall of screens that you cannot see.
Education Day games.
I loved it. I did. I loved it. So we've got a ton more basketball coming up this week. So make sure, again, that you're tuned in to conferenceusa.com. Check out that schedule page where you can watch all of the action. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know it was a long, jam-packed, full episode, but we just have so much going on to share with you. So we appreciate you guys for sticking with us. Once again, if you are not following us on social media yet, make sure that you do that at CUSA Insider Pod on X and Instagram. If you're watching us right now, you've obviously found us on YouTube. But if you are listening and you would like to watch the show, head on over to youtube.com, search Conference USA, and you will find us right there on the homepage, a little CUSA Insider podcast box right there at the top. And if you are still our audio only OGs, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. All right, everyone, that's all from us today. You are listening to CUSA Insider, the official podcast of Conference USA. I'm Sarah Rudolph, signing off.